Hey guys, welcome back to Small Doses of Insight. Alright dudes, buckle up. We're about to dive into the wild ride that is Vincenzo Cassano, one of the most badass, morally gray anti-heroes to ever grace Korean drama. This guy's basically Tony Soprano in an impeccably tailored suit with some John Wick vibes thrown in for good measure. But don't let that charming exterior fool you. Vincenzo's a dude with some serious skeletons in the closet, and his arc in Vincenzo takes us on a chaotic journey through vengeance, loyalty, and blowing stuff up. So grab a drink and let's break down why Vincenzo is the GOAT and the weirdest therapy candidate at the same time. So first up, Vincenzo is a guy who's half Korean, half Italian, and was adopted by a Mafia family when he was a kid. He grows up to be a consigliere, basically the right-hand man and lawyer for the Italian Mafia. Not a bad gig if you don't mind the occasional murder and corruption. But when his adoptive Mafia dad dies, his stepbrother, who's got about as much chill as a blender, tries to whack him. So Vincenzo pieces out and heads back to Korea to recover a massive stash of gold hidden underneath Gumga Plaza. And bro, the gold is just a backdrop to the chaos. What follows is basically a fight between Vincenzo, a shady corporation called Babel, and the quirky tenants of the plaza who end up being more ride or die than anyone expected. Vincenzo's character is an enigma wrapped in a riddle. On one hand, the dude's a cold-blooded mobster who doesn't flinch at the idea of offing people who get in his way. He's calculating, and as far as he's concerned, the ends totally justify the means, like when he sets an entire vineyard on fire in the first episode. What a freaking power move, right? But here's the thing, beneath all that ruthlessness is a guy with a weird sense of justice. You know that whole "we live in a society" meme? Yeah, that's Vincenzo. He knows the system's corrupt and figures the only way to fight it is to be just as corrupt, but smarter. So while he's kidnapping and torturing his enemies, he's also going after the Babel Group, a company that's out ruining lives. He's not good in the traditional sense, but he's definitely not Babel level evil either. Think of him as Batman if Batman had a body count and an impeccable Italian accent. And yeah, dude's got a heart under all that swagger. Take his relationship with Hong Cha-young, the female lead. They start out as frenemies because she was a lawyer for Babel at first, but they end up forming a duo of mass destruction to bring down Babel. Sure, there's a hint of romance, but it's subtle, more on that later. There's also this strained relationship with his biological mom, which gives us a glimpse of his softer side. Let's be real though, his soft side still involves blackmail and setting buildings on fire, but it's a thought that counts, right? For a show that's full of revenge, assassinations, and oh yeah, a vault of literal gold, Vincenzo is surprisingly funny. Part of the show's charm is how Vincenzo is this slick, deadly Mafia consigliere trying to deal with the absolute circus that is Gumga Plaza. Like, one second he's out here setting mob bosses on fire, and the next he's trying to figure out how to deal with the plaza tenants who are, how do I put this nicely, a complete mess. From a Buddhist monk to a laundromat owner wielding scissors, the tenants are a ragtag bunch who somehow end up being critical to Vincenzo's plan. That dynamic keeps the show from getting too dark, even though things do get super dark later on. And don't even get me started on the slapstick moments, especially with his paralegal Nam Joo-sung. The comedy is an interesting contrast to the show's more sinister elements and gives Vincenzo's character even more layers. It's like one moment he's doing mafia business, and the next he's dealing with absurd tenant antics. It's like he's stuck in a Korean Seinfeld episode, only with guns and explosives. Okay, let's talk partnerships. Vincenzo and Hong Cha-young, now that's what I call a power duo. Cha-young starts off as a lawyer for the enemy, but when her father is brutally murdered by Babel, she switches sides to team up with Vincenzo. Together, they're unstoppable, a perfect blend of brains, brawn, and morally questionable methods. Romantic tension? Oh, it's there, but don't expect a full-blown love story. It's more like this slow burn will they or won't they situation that never fully materializes. It's like when you're playing a video game and you think you've unlocked the secret romance option, but then the game just decides to move on without giving you that final cutscene. Their chemistry is undeniable, but the show leaves it up to the audience to decide how far their relationship goes. Now, Vincenzo's got baggage, like heavy-duty, oversized luggage levels of emotional trauma. He was abandoned by his mom as a child, adopted by a literal crime family, and then forced to flee Korea when his Mafia family tries to have him killed. Not exactly the well-adjusted adult starter pack. His whole thing with his biological mom is one of the few times we see Vincenzo's emotional guard slip. He's got all this pent-up anger and sadness because of how she abandoned him, but at the same time, he cares about her. When she gets killed, thanks to Babel of course, because they suck, Vincenzo goes full scorched earth. The dude is out for blood, and honestly, it's some of the most satisfying TV I've ever seen. He goes from "I'm trying to not kill people" to okay, everybody's gotta die now, and it's glorious. By the time we hit the finale, Vincenzo's evolved into his final form, a dude who's tired of everyone's crap and just wants his gold, thank you very much. But what makes his arc so satisfying is that he doesn't really change in the conventional sense. He starts off as a morally gray character and he stays that way. Sure, he's softened a bit by his interactions with Chaeyoung and the tenants, but he's still that same guy who won't hesitate to burn down an entire vineyard if it suits his purposes. The final showdown with Jang Han-seok, the absolute psycho behind Babel, is brutal, no-holds-barred revenge at its finest. Vincenzo doesn't just beat his enemies, he completely dismantles them in ways that are as creative as they are terrifying. Alright bro, let's dig into the impact of Vincenzo not just as a straight-up gangster drama, but as a piece of storytelling that low-key questions our sense of morality, justice, and power. First off, this drama smacks you right in the face with the idea that sometimes the law isn't enough. It plays with the whole concept of justice in a world where the bad guys own the system. Like Babel Group, that company is basically every corrupt corporation you've ever seen in the news, only cranked up to 11. And what's Vincenzo's answer to that? Not your typical courtroom drama, but straight up mafia tactics, blackmail, torture, and good old-fashioned revenge. It forces you to confront that uncomfortable question. When the system's broken, how far are you willing to go to fix it? Vincenzo himself is a walking contradiction, bro. He's a dude that's done horrific things, literal mob stuff, but he's also taking down a company that's killing people for profit. It's kinda like he's a villain who's fighting an even bigger villain, and that's where this show hits different. It's not about black and white morality, it's more about when push comes to shove, the good guys might have to get their hands dirty to make a real difference. In one way, Vincenzo reflects on how power and corruption are tied together. Take Babel's influence. They buy off politicians, law enforcement, and even the media to cover up their wrongdoings. This isn't just a K-drama thing, man. This is straight out of real-world headlines. So when Vincenzo goes rogue and uses mafia-style justice, it makes you wonder, maybe traditional justice systems are too weak or compromised to take down those at the top. That's a heavy reflection on the world we live in. But the show doesn't just glorify his methods, it shows you the cost. Vincenzo loses people he cares about, like his mom, brutally murdered by Babel, and that trauma is what drives him to go full-on John Wick. Yeah, it's satisfying to see him take down Babel with brutal precision, but the show also subtly asks, is this really a win? Vincenzo might have gotten his revenge, but at what cost to his soul? He's not a hero walking into the sunset. He's still a cold-blooded killer who's learned how to weaponize justice. And dude, let's talk about the tenants at Gunga Plaza, those quirky characters who first seem like comic relief but end up being a key part of Vincenzo's moral dilemma. In a weird way, they represent the ordinary people who are just trying to live their lives in a world where the powerful trample over them. Vincenzo doesn't care about them at first, he's just after his gold. But as the story progresses, these tenants, goofy as they are, become the heart of his transformation. They pull him into their fight, and he starts seeing them as more than pawns in his mafia game. That shift, that's where the show gets you thinking about community, loyalty, and what it means to fight for something bigger than yourself. At the end of the day, Vincenzo isn't just a gangster tale wrapped in slick suits and explosions. It's a reflection on the blurred lines between good and evil, law and chaos, justice and vengeance. It doesn't give you clear answers, and that's why it sticks with you long after the final showdown. Because let's be real, the world is messy, and sometimes the only way to fix it is to get a little messy yourself. In the end, Vincenzo is one of those characters who thrives in the gray area between hero and villain. He's charming, deadly, and unapologetically ruthless when it comes to getting what he wants. But he's also weirdly endearing, especially in those rare moments where his walls come down and we see a glimpse of the character he could have been if life hadn't turned him into a mafia consigliere. If you haven't watched Vincenzo yet, do yourself a favor and check it out. Just don't expect your usual hero's journey. Vincenzo's out here rewriting the rules, and honestly, I'm here for it. Thanks everyone for watching this video. If you enjoyed what you saw, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more content like this. Also, be sure to check out my other videos for more insight on other dramas and shows. Your support means a lot to me and it helps me grow this channel. If you have any thoughts, questions, or suggestions for future videos, please drop them in the comments down below. Again, thank you for watching this video and I'll see you next time.